let's switch to another medium. How about some movies? How about that? Where's Mr. Lynch?
That's beautiful cinema.
Yeah, that's great. So yes, we watched The Killer, David Fincher's latest, over on Netflix.
Now, did I give myself a refresher after having seen it 2 weeks ago? No.
Okay.
But I think that'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is a movie about an assassin who really likes Morrissey.
That's the it's a good good summary.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of talking today. How about you give your thoughts?
This was what I expected from a David Fincher thriller. And that's a good thing because it in terms of his filmography, I think it's definitely towards the top. It's in the the upper echelon of Fincher movies. It's just very well executed. You're following I call him the killer because I don't think you actually get his name in the movie.
No, there's just the recurring bit where he uses aliases constantly.
That's right. And you're following him after, at first you're following him as a job goes wrong. You see his thought process and mentality as someone who is very cold and calculated. And then you spend the next hour 45 just watching him slowly unravel and make matters worse and worse for himself. And it's very satisfying to watch. It's full of really great performances. Very smart. I did wish there were less Smith's songs in it. I think the fact that the killer's favorite artist is the Smiths is very appropriate for the character. The problem with that is that you are then subjected to a wide array of Smith's songs throughout the film. So, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
My favorite detail actually is the fact that his first job, he's like scoping out a subject and a building, an area, and he's doing it from the now vacated WeWork office, which is very funny and a very smart little I guess Easter egg or detail.
What I enjoyed that, but then I also thought, damn, that means Netflix had to pay to use WeWork just before they went completely under.
That's a good point.
That's sort of just like pissing in the wind.
That's true. But yeah, I mean, it's paced very well. It's structured very well. I was always intrigued by this character that we're watching, the thought process more than anything. You get like the internal monologue, which for me is something that typically it's very hit or miss in the visual medium of like movies and TV. I feel like the one example that's probably worked better than any that I've seen is Mr. Robot. But it's just so hard to get that internal monologue out there in a visual medium and have it be interesting. But I think this one, it worked. And a lot of really good like supporting roles. I think Tilda Swinton was my favorite towards the end. Don't want to give too much away in case you happen to be listening to this and are still planning to watch it. But yeah, I mean, it's just very well executed Fincher. And if you kind of know if that's something that you want, this delivers. I think it's more widely appealing than Mank.
Still didn't see Mank.
I really liked Mank, but that felt like Fincher's, let me take this Netflix money and make what I want type of thing. Whereas this is more made for the broad appeal, and I think it works. What about you? What'd you think?
I wasn't as hot on it.
No, you're not?
No. And I think it boils down to, like you said, the interiority is like very hit or miss. And for me, it missed.
It did. Okay.
Yeah. Like I didn't enjoy being stuck in this dude's head. Especially with all the Morrissey. It felt like I was stuck with him and Morrissey, and I didn't like him. And so like you got the Fincher stylism, right, of it all. Like it's that cold detachedness. And for me, it was like too detached while also being stuck in this dude's head. And this dude wants to be detached too. So I'm like, okay, why do I give a fuck? Right. And the second half, I got bored. I was just like, where are we going? You know, I didn't know. Like at a certain point, I was just like, is this still because of the maid? Is this still because of the like he was going up the chain? I just
So you were just disconnected from it at that point.
Yeah. It was just like I got it. I got the whole, like, you know, he was losing focus, the whole heart rate thing, which is your big anxiety trigger there.
It is
the heart rate monitoring.
It definitely is. Although I liked that. I thought that was I don't know. There was something appealing about watching this very cold, awful person start to lose his mind little by little. And
but we don't see the externalities of it.
Well, no, because in his internal he still is under the impression that he's keeping it together, but then the external actions go against that.
But he's still just kind of going business as usual, you know? Like nothing has completely changed. Like he's still doing the mantras of like, yes, I have to be calm, cool, and collected and still do all this shit, you know? But he's still like killing people. Like, oh, I can't show empathy, but I still got to kill the people. And so he kills the people. So like nothing has actually changed his behavior.
Well, it has, though, is his entire approach, his very clean, methodical approach.
But the end result is still the same. And then by the end of it, he's just the same guy, except now he's dating his maid or whatever, or he was always dating his maid, or she wasn't really his maid. I didn't know what was going on with that dynamic.
I'm pretty sure he'd been dating her for quite a while.
Okay. Spoilers for the maid. but yeah, I was just I don't know. And then he would sort of make some kind of commentary.
Well, I think a lot of it hinges on the first 15 minutes, because that is where you get the step-by-step procedure of how he conducts his business.
You needed that. You needed that to set up how things were supposed to deviate.
Right.
And for me, they didn't really deviate enough.
Okay.
You didn't really see him under enough pressure.
Okay. Because for me, it felt like his whole world was falling apart. Like he composed this whole sort of strategy and approach, and he was just kind of saying fuck it at every turn, and just getting a little bit more careless as each encounter happens.
I guess you see that mostly with the fight scene in the house with the guy.
Well, he also
I know that's so generic, but
he walks into a law office, takes a nail gun, and shoots a guy in the chest 3 times. So, like, there's a whole lot of just utter disregard.
But he still like puts the thing under the guy's head so he doesn't leave any, you know, whatever. Like he's still doing all the shit he would normally do. Like,
well, that's kind of the beauty of it, though, is because there's like a tight what's the tight wire? Is that what's the term where you trip?
Yeah, I get. Yeah, is it? I guess
it's like a carnival act.
Tightrope.
He's walking a tightrope. Because like things are still working out for him, but you just see him take more and more risks. I guess it's a movie of risk in terms of, it's a story of like him like losing it and taking more risks, and things get more tense because of it as time goes along.
I didn't have much tension. I had more tension in that first scene where he's like, shit, I got to get out of here. The cops are on him.
Yeah.
You know?
And then it does take a turn, because you expect it from that point to be like, how does he get out of the mess that he made?
Yeah.
But it turns out that was already cleaned up by his superiors, and the rest of the movie is like a revenge movie because he doesn't like the way they cleaned it up and the sort of repercussions that he faced.
Maybe it's just a little, because that was like sort of the obvious, at least to me, like thing. It's like so many of these assassin things, it's like the John Wick effect.
Yeah.
Where it's like, of course he's going to go up the chain of, you know, he's no longer under the leash of the assassin organization thing. Like that's kind of where these go now.
But this one had a little extra to it, because it sets the mentality of the guy, and then you just he deteriorates. He deteriorates.
I wanted more deterioration.
Okay, that's fair. That is fair.
Like he shows the most deterioration to me in that beginning thing where he's like, oh, fuck, you know, like
Oh, but he never recovers from that. Oh, fuck, is the thing. And maybe things shouldn't have worked out for him in the end. I think maybe that's also part of it. Like, what's the takeaway?
Yeah. That's what I mean. Nothing has like changed for him except for the fact that he's now living the island life.
True.
Like, if anything, like things, the only consequence was that his girlfriend got fucked up, and that was her trauma.
And then the elephant in the room here is that Michael Fassbender, the star of this movie, was accused of domestic abuse.
Yeah, I didn't know about this.
This is not the first time, even recently, that...
Oh, really?
I'm sorry. I meant there. I had more to that sentence. This is not the first time, even recently, that Fincher has cast someone with a problematic background as a lead. So that's disappointing from a filmmaker that I really like and tend to respect his work.
What, are we talking Spacey?
No. Gary Oldman was the lead in Mank. Oh, goodness. Okay. Problem is, the problem is there are too many. There are too many cases.
Seriously, really?
Too many cases of just problematic people in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
Gary Oldman was accused of. I don't mean. I'm not laughing at it. I'm just the fact that
I know what you mean.
It's the same thing. It's domestic abuse. Like, it's just. This is becoming a pattern here.
Sure.
You know, like, this is two movies in a row for Fincher, and I laugh at the sort of absurdity of it, where he's cast a lead who has gotten credible accusations of domestic abuse against him. Like, that's something to reckon with.
Didn't
for
Brad
sure.
Pitt do something too?
Well, that I don't know. I'm not sure. It's hard to keep up.
I'm trying to think of his other movies, because like Spacey, Brad Pitt, a lot of Spacey.
Got Affleck, I guess.
Affleck.
I don't know.
What was Affleck in?
Well, Gone Girl.
Oh, sure. Well, the other Affleck was the one with the issue.
That's right. Casey has. Yeah. I mean, I'm not looking to list. I'm not trying.
Meanwhile, like 2 or 3 episodes ago, you were trying to get me into trouble for liking Fincher movies.
Wait, when did that? Oh, well, Fight Club. It's the cliche.
Yeah, I don't like Fight Club.
I'm not particularly fond of it either. I think it's one of his weaker movies.
Me too.
Yeah. I definitely put Mank above it.
Okay, all right. Well, because I gotta go see Mank then.
Who starred in Benjamin Button? Is that person on problem?
Damon, right? Matt Damon.
Okay. I don't know. The point is, it's not a good look.
Sure.
Plenty of actors out there, you know? Yeah. And so, like, that takes away from it for me. It's hard to support.
But also, who else do you want to play as a literally cold-blooded psychopathic killer?
No, I think there's plenty of people who are
an actual fucking psychopath.
Well, sure, but there are plenty of people who are unproblematic that can be hired for the job, and
I say it's accurate casting.
All right, yeah. That's a slippery slope.
Sure. For the record, I'm kidding.
Yes, of course.
Disclaimer.
But yeah, just worth mentioning. That said, I think it's a very good movie. I think you make good points though. I do think the ending is very clean for a movie that tried to take a character and make him messy. Yeah. You know, it definitely feels a little bit disconnected at the end. In fact, I expected the Tilda Swinton sequence to have more weight to it and consequence than it actually did. I just don't want to give too much away there, because I think Tilda Swinton is excellent. I was waiting for
some Swinton, and it happened so late in the movie.
It did. Yeah. It did. She made it count though. But yeah, you know, I mean,
this is a small thing, but I think this is more of a Netflix issue than anything else. But the movie has an opening credits sequence.
Oh, it does, which I thought was good for the record.
I thought it was weird, and it felt like it was tacked on, and almost like the kind of thing that like Netflix wants you to skip.
Oh, that's funny. So they created it with the intention of the viewer to skip it. I was like,
what is this?
To me, it just felt like a normal movie title sequence. It was stylized, and it actually reminded me of like Mindhunter.
That's what I mean. It felt like it was for like a TV show.
Maybe, or like a James Bond
There was like no cold open, no nothing. It was just like...
Well, that's how movies used to be.
But it was like 10 seconds long.
No, it gave you like a full.
Yeah.
It gave you like a full cast.
It was very
layout
short
and everything.
It was
didn't
very
it?
short.
Am I misremembering?
It was very
that?
short. It was weird. And then it's just a movie, and it's like, oh yeah, well now we're in it. It was very weird. It was like designed like in a Netflix lab to me.
Oh, weird. Because like Once Upon a Time, pretty much every movie started with just a rundown of the credits.
Oh yeah, I know that.
You know,
yeah.
So this felt like
the way movies end now is how they used to start.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And this to me I didn't really read much into this. It felt like a stylized version of that.
Well, Fincher used to do like the sort of style, like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo had the stylized thing, but this was just like that, like truncated to like.
I don't remember it being that short. I'll have to revisit that and see. Let me go look at the title sequence of this movie.
Yeah.
But that is funny though, the idea that it was like sort of encouraged by Netflix to include, and then as something to skip.
That's the way it felt to me. And again, I didn't watch it on Netflix because I obviously didn't have the actual button to skip. But like, that's the way it felt to me. It was just like there to have it there, and you weren't even supposed to like even care that it was there. Like most Netflix title sequences now, where they just like, oh, everybody's hitting the button, fuck it.
It's been
it was just like algorithmically driven.
I feel like it's been years since I have seen a Netflix TV series, so I couldn't really speak to that.
But like, anyway, that was just my little. I have to get one weird nitpick in every movie. Speaking of Gary Oldman, I watched Oppenheimer the night before I watched The Killer. I don't know why I just felt like watching it. It's not too late for some Oppenheimer takes, right?
No, because like Barbie just landed on HBO, and so I feel like the sort of synergy is still present.
Okay, all right, yeah. Well, yeah, I watched Oppenheimer. I haven't seen Barbie. I watched Oppenheimer. I had the masculine urge to watch Oppenheimer.
Which, can I just for a second, like you go onto the Max app. I can't even call it HBO Max because that's not the name anymore.
Right.
And the first thing you see is Barbie, of course, like that makes sense. Yeah. But then you scroll down and it's like recommendations of other movies and TV based on Barbie characters. And I don't quite like none of them make sense to me. And then you scroll down even further and it's like, watch these if you liked Barbie. And then you scroll down even further and it's like other Barbie related things. It's just they made the entire interface about this movie. And like, yeah, Barbie's a good movie. It's obviously culturally relevant, but like people are going to watch it. Like you didn't have to sort of push everything else out of the way. I think
they're doing the opposite. I think they want you to stick around to watch all the other shit. They don't want you to dip after you watch Barbie.
By making it all sky blue and pink?
They want you to think this is the Barbie app.
All right. I mean, I have a disconnect with HBO ever since it got taken over by a guy who thinks that HGTV is the most valuable television in existence, and nothing else is really worthwhile. Yeah. So maybe it's
how does he feel about glass houses?
I don't know.
Because they're good for the heat.
Wait, what's this a reference to?
They keep an even temperature because it reflects the light.
Is this like an atomic bomb joke?
No, like glass house. All right, never mind. It was supposed to be about the curse. That doesn't matter.
The curse. Oh, I dropped out.
I haven't watched since the third episode.
I haven't watched since the first. I saw the pilot. I was like, I'm very uncomfortable. It
is a tough hour each time. And which is why I'm only on the third.
This is someone like I love Emma Stone and I admire Nathan Fielder's work, and I am a fan of Uncut Gems. Uncut Gems. So this should have been for me, but I feel like they took a swing, and I can't speak because I maybe it goes places, maybe it takes time.
It's just designed to make you so fucking uncomfortable.
Which, like, I feel like I don't need it.
I don't think anybody needs it.
True.
I would love to see the ratings. I would love to see the ratings.
Is it a Showtime series? Because Showtime is about to no longer exist. So
I think it's already gotten shuffled around a couple times.
Yeah. There's this whole thing where Showtime is now going to be called Paramount with Showtime everywhere.
Oh, that'll work great.
Yeah. So I don't, streaming is a whole thing.
Yeah. Why do you think I have 33 terabytes of
but
whatever.
But about Oppenheimer?
Yeah, Oppenheimer. Gary Oldman's in it. Also, literally Oppenheimer is like the Leo point of movies. It's like, oh, hey, it's that guy. It's like, oh, hey, I know that guy. There's one Safdie in it. I forget which one. Probably the one that acts. I don't think the other one. Does the other one act?
No,
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay, so it's the one that acts.
I want to say Benny.
Okay, yeah, probably. He's in it. Robert Downey Jr.'s in it. It's like everybody's in this fucking movie. Josh from Drake and Josh is in it. Everybody's in this fucking movie. Yeah, I was not expecting to, one, enjoy it, and two, like watch the whole thing in one sitting. But I did both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's a 3-hour long movie. It does not feel like a 3-hour long movie, which surprised me.
The best ones don't.
Right. It is not perfect. It is not perfect. But it's probably his best since The Dark Knight. Probably.
Dunkirk.
Oh, Dunkirk. I forgot about Dunkirk. And I didn't see Tenet because
I think that's pretty safe to rule out there.
Dunkirk. I forgot about Dunkirk.
Dunkirk for me is like I don't like war movies, and I love Dunkirk. So
okay, well, so this is good. I'm not gonna rank them, but it's good, right? It's not perfect. If you don't already
is it
know
better than
about,
Fight Club?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's like the metric now.
Okay, sure. It's the Fight Club line. If you don't already know like some history about Oppenheimer and like his like quote unquote trial that he went through with like the security clearance, the timeline can get a little fucky because it's not told chronologically. So that's a little iffy because like the most recent part of the movie, like chronologically, is in black and white and everything else is in color. So that's a wrinkle. Like they do it to keep the timeline straight, but it's sort of like reversed from what you would expect. Mm-hmm. But I think that was to keep the nuclear bomb test in color. So, and I knew it wouldn't do it, and I was right. But Lynch's bomb explosion kicked the snot out of this one. My God.
Are you talking about from the Twin Peaks Return?
From the return. Still one of the most incredible sequences of film I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Kicked the absolute snot out of this. My God. Just an incredible 8 minutes of Jesus. But yeah, so there's like so many weird things. Like, and I'm not the first one to point this out, so I won't pretend to be, but like, there's so many moments where it's like this is like an Avengers movie.
Oh, okay.
Like where like Einstein just kind of shows up and like, it's like, oh, we need to add him to the team. And like, he doesn't join the team, and like the movie ends with like a JFK name drop, almost as if it's like setting up like a cinematic universe, It's like, oh, who was that guy? It's Kennedy something.
It's the
really?
The real world cinematic universe.
Yeah, it's like very strange. It's like, what's that guy's name? Kennedy something. John F. Kennedy.
Oh, that's cringe.
It's like, come on. Yeah, it's like, come on, man. Come on.
Something that can't be the line.
It was like the young senator from Massachusetts.
Oh boy,
Kennedy. It's like, come on. So there's stuff like that. There's a sequence where Oppenheimer puts on the hat and it's like a superhero getting into his uniform.
I don't like any of this.
And it's really cringe. I'm talking about like the really bad stuff, it's really, really cringe. And then he's like walking around Los Alamos. But then like the performances are incredible. Like Cillian Murphy's incredible. Mm-hmm. Florence Pugh is kind of relegated to like literally the side chick.
Very unsurprising because the trailer has Florence Pugh pop up like once, and it makes you think was that Florence Pugh? But you can't tell because that's the only time that she pops up, and then you have to Google it, and you're like, oh, it was Florence.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of like there are so many people in the movie that is like that. It's like, hey, was that guy? It's like, oh yeah, that was that guy. Like Gary Oldman's President Truman. You know, he's there for 40 seconds.
Why not?
Sure.
Well,
yeah. It's like, why not?
We've talked about why not, but you know what I mean.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, like there's a lot of people like that. I'm surprised Michael Caine didn't show up for some reason. You know, just like, yeah, there's just a ton of people. Yeah, no, great performances. Emily Blunt is very good. And then it also largely succeeds as like a character study of, you know, this like conflicted guy who built the fucking atomic bomb, you know, and less so like his morality. It goes into his politics, and it also acts as like a Rorschach test of like staying completely fucking like perfect Nolan centrism.
Oh, okay.
Of like where you can graft your own politics onto it. So like if you hate communists, you know, you can like still identify with this movie, and if you even are a communist, you can still be like, oh, they did him dirty, you know. So like you could have your cake and eat it too. Like he's riding the fence like that well. Which,
like, hey, maybe that's how he gets these big blockbuster numbers, box office numbers, rather.
Yeah, I mean, it works here than his awful Occupy stuff in Dark Knight Rises. So let's just say that, you know. It doesn't succeed in making him understandable as a not a sex symbol, but like as a womanizer. And maybe they couldn't make sense of it because it is kind of inexplicable.
Okay.
And also how he was like sort of a commanding orator. Like they never really like got that across. They just kind of say that he is, and you're supposed to just sort of roll with it. Yeah, I think it's decent, you know.
I am gonna watch it sometime. I was busy the weekend that it came out. I saw a different movie in the theater.
Right, of course. Yeah. Nolan wouldn't like the fact that I watched it on a television, you know.
Oh, that's what I need. I'd have to watch this on my phone. That was the whole point. Yeah. Just to spite, because we've talked about that.
Yes,
I really resent Christopher Nolan's comments during like peak COVID about how we need to save movies. But you know, that's a whole thing. Yeah,
it's weird that, you know, it was cut 16:9. I don't understand. I thought it was an IMAX movie. You know, I don't get it. What happened? God, it's so annoying. If it was actually like, if there was an IMAX cut, it would be almost 4:3. Like we saw this with fucking Zack Snyder. Like, okay, whatever.
Just get out your big box TV at that point.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's largely good, and it did not feel like 3 hours. So yeah.
You know what did feel like 3 hours is the new Sam Esmail movie.
Oh no.
No, that's okay, because it almost was 3 hours, so it's
okay.
on point. Okay. I watched Leave the World Behind, his Netflix adaptation of the novel from Rumaan Alam from a few years ago.
Yes.
I've been anticipating it ever since they announced it, because it did feel like a good pairing of like source material and artists. And it turned out to be, it's very good. It allows Esmail to kind of explore his usual family dynamics and technology and society. Like, you know, he plays a lot of the greatest hits here. Okay. But that's a good thing, because he plays them well, you know. Also, as someone who did read the novel and liked it very much, he took some different directions with it that I wasn't really expecting, but I probably should have been. And for the most part, they work very well. Whether it's like character details that just like fit very well in with the medium that he's playing with, or if it's like actual narrative or like world building details that kind of are more consequential. They all just kind of work really well. The problem I do have with the movie, and it sounds like a glaring issue, which it kind of is that a lot of the characters for a long time are pretty insufferable. And honestly, I could kind of see Sam Esmail being a bit insufferable himself. So like, it makes sense, like having, and I'm a huge fan of his work, but I've listened to him on podcasts, I've heard him speak and I think his personality shines through quite a bit in his writing. And in this case, it did make like some of these characters rough to relate to for a while. And part of that is social commentary. Like the basic synopsis here is that a family played by Julia Roberts. How am I like forgetting her name? She's like
Julia Roberts, the very famous
Julia
actress.
Roberts. Yeah, her and Ethan Hawke are the mother and father, and they've got the two kids. So they're taking like a little getaway from like their life and their careers, and they're just going on a little spontaneous Airbnb trip. And then once they're there, things kind of get weird, and their cell service goes away, and they can't connect to the internet, and they hear rumors of like some sort of cyber attack. And then eventually in the middle of the night, the owners of the Airbnb show up, and they're like, yeah, we were just in New York City. Stuff's going down. So we felt it would be the practical move to come back to our home. Will you let us in and stay the night? And then there's like, paranoia and different social dynamics at play that kind of contribute to the whole situation. And that's actually where the novel spends most of its focus, is in the ambiguity of what's actually going on in the world around them. And you're sort of left with these characters and their own perspectives and thoughts, and kind of how that, their decision making is mostly about the unknown. Whereas here, Esmail is sort of filling out the context of what's actually happening. Okay. 'Cause you get, by the end of it, you get a full view of what's actually happening in the world. So he's like taking away that ambiguity. And I think that it really works for what he's going for. But
it's interesting because that sounds like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it sounds like the Paul Tremblay novel, Cabin in the that title.
Knock on the cabin.
Don't knock on the.
Don't knock twice
cabin.
On the door in the cabin in the woods.
Don't fuck.
Are you talking about the one that came out early this year, right? With Batista?
Cabin at the End of the World.
Yes, that's the novel.
The novel.
By Paul Tremblay, who we've unfortunately had to talk about on the podcast.
That novel was a big miss, yeah.
Yeah. Shyamalan
did the adaptation.
What's it called, though? Knock at the Cabin.
Knock
That's
at the cabin.
Not a good name.
That's not. It's not. It's really generic.
Especially because Cabin at the End of the World is a very good title.
Yeah.
Knock at the Cabin. That's like almost grammatically.
I mean, that happens. Yeah, that happens.
Sure.
There is a knock at the cabin, but like the premise is similar.
Oh, okay.
That was all. This was not worth this diversion. I'm sorry.
No, I do that all the time on this show. So I appreciate the sort of diversions from the source material that Esmail makes. Where he struggles is the characterization. I think the characters are a lot easier to connect to in the source material, and I mean, that kind of makes sense. Like it's much easier to get the internal thoughts and everything in the form of a novel. But then when you're stuck with these characters and your runtime is 2.5 hours, see, like this was something like I can forgive. This movie is a mess in terms of pacing. And like the just the way it flows, like it's a mess, and I can't even really say otherwise. Because like you're an hour in and you feel like it's reaching its climax as if it's a 90-minute movie.
How much of that do you think due to his mostly working
That's
in
exactly
TV.
it. That was the point that I was going to make, is that I kind of forgive it because he's only made television, and I can overlook that. You know, but it did very much feel like it was working towards the big finish at, you know, maybe less than halfway through. So it takes dips and, you know, dives and all that, but it is ultimately worthwhile. I think that it has a lot going for it in terms of like the world building and the tension, and eventually the characters come around to the point where you start to really understand them and their motivations, and you know, you get a better grasp on them probably around the 2-hour mark.
Okay.
See, like if I wasn't already such an Esmail fan, I probably would have been.
That's a tough sell.
It's a tough sell, and like I was already fully in from the beginning because I know who's involved and I was gonna see it through, and I ended up enjoying it, and I think it ends brilliantly. I think it has such a satisfying ending scene in a movie that is actually otherwise very, very bleak in its like worldview and outlook. I just think it ends so well that like if you could get through some of that early stuff and stick with it, it's worthwhile, which is a tough sell because there's so much out there.
I mean, you could say the same talking about the ending, like for Mr. Robot, right? That was such a dark, dour, like the world has gone to shit series. But that finale
that a lot of people dropped off in the second season because it did struggle. It took a swing and it struggled in its second season because the first season won Emmys and had so much recognition. And then the second season took this chance and didn't fully connect. And I say that as someone who, like, I consider that like an all-time favorite in terms of TV. Second season's a bit tough, relatively speaking. Like, it's still obviously very good, but it's a little, it's kind of tough to get through. But then if you stick with that, the third and especially the fourth and final season are like all-time TV. So yeah, I guess this might be a bit of a trend for Esmail. I think maybe Homecoming was like his best like singular success because it was a limited, well, at the time it was a limited series. He only worked on the first season.
I was gonna say I only watched that first season.
Yeah, it was.
I think unintentionally I didn't, you know, it felt like it was done anyway.
A totally different creative team in the second, totally different cast, I think, except maybe for like one or two characters. But, and I'm not trying to say that Leave the World Behind is in any way comparable to Mr. Robot in terms of quality, because, like, you know, this movie is good. Mr. Robot is like transcendent. But, you know, I think it's worthwhile if you kind of buy what he's selling here and are in for the ride. There's just like some really cool shit with technology too. Like I kind of almost want to spoil this one part. I really do. Like I do and I don't, because I think you might. Are you eventually going to watch this?
Eventually. I'd like to read the book first. Like, you gave me a copy forever ago that has been on my list and shelf since.
There's a scene where the characters are trying to get back to New York City. They think it's a good idea in the moment. They're like, we're going to try to do this. Well, actually, what they're trying to do is get to Jersey, but they're in upstate New York. Well, yeah, that in general. Funny. But they have to go through like the highways and stuff and get to New York City. Anyway, the point is, one of the major highways is total gridlock. And you don't know why. And then they continue slowly driving up to like seeing where all these cars are just like sitting still on the road. And then they're all the same exact car, which is very creepy and unsettling. And you don't know what's going on here, the context of it. But then you very quickly realize what it is. And it's like so good. I'm not going to give it away.
Okay.
But it's so good. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, stuff like that. Like, he just like that's not anywhere in the source material. It's something that he sort of, you know, thought would be fitting in this, the filling out the world, I guess, you know. And it works. So, yeah, I mean, Mahershala Ali is like, it's funny because like everything he's in, he's like just like so far and away the best actor on screen, which is the case here as well. Not to take anything away from anybody else. Like, Ethan Hawke is great. He's one of my favorites. And then also Mahershala is his character's daughter in this movie is played by Mila Harold, who was the star of I say was, I'm not sure if it's coming back or not, but Industry on HBO, which is a show that I love. And I remember Sam Esmail saying it was like his favorite show of whatever given year that it came out. So it's like pretty funny to then see him cast one of the stars from it in his movie. It is cool to listen to him talk on like a pod, because he always does like a year-end podcast with The Ringer where he talks about his like favorite TV and like the state of the industry and stuff. And it's like cool to hear his perspective, and then you kind of see see that kind of on screen when he makes something,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
He has a recurring bit about Friends, the show Friends in this movie. And yet he's very, very in real life against like comfort TV. And so I wasn't quite sure how to read the Friends bit, whether it was like, well, I know how to read it.
That's funny hearing that and then remembering the Mr. Robot fake sitcom.
Well, yeah. So what the Friends
sequence?
Bit, not to give anything away, but the Friends bit in this movie is not necessarily about the show itself, but it's about the power of like fiction and specifically like serialized TV to like keep someone, I guess, company in like, you know, when they might be going through some shit or like, you know, just like, you know, relating to characters on screen and like actually like caring for them and like the power of that. That's really what the Friends bit in this movie is. But it's just kind of funny to kind of compare his own like world, like view on the industry with some of the stuff that he includes in his projects. But anyway, I'd recommend it. I think if you're a Sam of Sam, I can't even talk at this point. If you're a fan of Sam Esmail, definitely watch it. If you're not, or you're not sure because you haven't seen anything that he's made,
you got to become a fan.
Well, just watch Mr. Robot.
Yeah, gotta watch
that's
Mr.
really
Robot.
what it comes down to.
Yeah, seriously. I think that's still on Amazon Prime.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's so fucking good.
It's great. I mean, it was cool to see this movie like be at the top of the Netflix charts, because I feel like that is usually reserved for something awful, especially on the movie side of things. Just like the lowest common denominator, whatever the fuck, like, you know, action movie with like a, you know, completely forgettable cookie cutter, almost AI generated narrative. So, you know, it's definitely a cut above that. I'll get, you know, that's objectively true. So
I would hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not what I expected. Okay. It's not what I expected going in, but also it makes perfect sense for like the type of direction they took it. So it's, you know, I appreciate what he did with this movie. And I think if you're looking for something on Netflix, it's probably worthwhile. Maybe not as worthwhile as The Killer, although you might think otherwise, but
I mean, if you need 2 hours to kill, you got The Killer.
You do.
If you like the Smiths and Morrissey. I keep coming back to that. It was a lot of Morrissey.
Was so much. It was so much. You keep coming back to it. They kept coming back to it.
That's true. That's true. Like whenever it was the next like sound drop, I was like, wait, is that fucking Morrissey again? I was like, oh, okay. All right, fine. All right. Then I expected it from that point. But like the second one was like, really? I think we did a show.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting our first segment to go that long.
Actually,
but, you know.
we were almost at the exact runtime. Well, this is before editing, so we're at the exact runtime of Leave the World Behind. So if you want to get a feel for what you're investing in,
I don't know what that says.
I have no idea either. Yeah, it's
that says. Thank you for listening. Really do appreciate it. I assume this is the last episode of the year. I might split these two, and if I did, then I will have said some kind of intro in the first half or outro in the first half. So I don't know what I'm going to do in the edit, but we will see. Really do appreciate you listening. And also another reminder, our new email is podcast@dinnerroad.media. And as I've mentioned a couple times, the new URL for the website is dinnerroad.media.
I mean, they can also just like go to your personal inbox because all bets are off at this point.
They could, if you can locate it. I don't keep it public, but if you manage to find it, you can send me weird cryptic emails that I'll obsess over, and maybe I'll obsess over it on the air as well. But yeah, dinnerroad.media for everything, for the podcasts, for some writing stuff. I'm going to be putting up some fiction stuff up there soon, maybe. and also the publishing stuff as well. Any other articles I write. The old links still work, but I'm going to transition fully over, so I'll stop giving the reminders upcoming soon, most likely in the new year. That's all I got. I got anything else. Appreciate you listening. We will see you in 2024, most likely. That's a scary thought.
It is.
All right.